What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Dapper Side. Today we're going to be showing you the steps that we use to properly maintain a shoe. There's a few things that everyone should do with their higher end shoes if you want to always keep them looking nice, clean, and have a little shine on them as well. Now, the items that we're going to use today are going to be a couple of your essentials for taking care of shoes. You want to start with some saddle soap to kind of give the shoe a deep clean. We're going to use some conditioner to nourish the leather and soften it up a bit. And then we're going to use some cream polish to really bring the color back out. To do this, you want to use those items. You also want to have a horsehair brush, a shine cloth, possibly some edge dressing to touch up the sole afterwards, and you can use gloves if you want to. Personally, I don't like the feel of the polish on my hands, so I'll be using gloves. Now, the shoes that we're going to be using today are a pair of Allen Edmonds Fifth Avenues. They were donated to us for the purposes of shining them up, and we're going to kind of experiment with them a little bit. Now, a couple of things that you can really tell on the shoe when you first look at it is, one, they probably weren't kept in shoe trees. You can see from the creasing right here that it's creased more than if there were shoe trees in them. Now, this pair in particular has been worn roughly 100 times and not treated, so you can see there's some minor scuffs and some discoloration on the toes as well, but with some conditioner and some polish, we should be able to clean most of that up and get it back to its original color. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is put my gloves on. I'm going to remove the shoelaces from the shoes and I'm going to put them in shoe trees. You always want to be using shoe trees because it's going to give you a harder surface to shine on, and you don't want to have the laces in them as well because you don't want to get polish on the laces. Gloves are a little tight. Now, before I do anything with these shoes, I'm going to put some saddle soap on them. Some people like to wipe the shoes off with a damp cloth to remove surface dirt, but if you're going to use saddle soap to really clean the shoe out, you should be fine just doing that to start. The way I'm going to use the saddle soap is I'm going to go ahead and wrap this shine cloth around my finger like so. Personally, I like to use a little bit of water with the saddle soap to kind of give it a nice lather, and then I'm just going to apply a coat to each shoe and really kind of clean it up and go from there. You really don't need to use a whole lot of water to do this, just a little bit, and you'll see you'll start to get a nice lather on the shoes. Now, when applicating, you don't really need to focus on specific spots. You can really just kind of go over the whole shoe, and you want to just get a nice lather on there to really get rid of all of that surface dirt, any grime. If there was polish on the shoes previously, it'll get rid of that as well. You want to go over the whole shoe just to make sure that you're getting everything on there. Now, the thing to remember when you're putting the saddle soap on is that a little bit goes a long way. When you're using the saddle soap, you really don't want to push too hard on here, just lightly rub in there a little bit. And if you're using water as well, you're going to notice that you get a pretty decent amount of lather on the cloth. You want to just keep focusing on the front part of the shoe, the back part of the shoe, and really just try and get it in everywhere, especially if the shoe hasn't been worn for some time, such as this pair. Now, once you've applied the saddle soap to the shoe, the next thing you want to do is really wipe it all off. You don't want to have any of this residue on, especially considering for the next step you're going to be putting conditioner on the shoe. Now, when you're wiping the shoe down, really just go over it with that same cloth. Just give it a thorough wipe down and try and get as much of that saddle soap off of the shoe as possible. Now, on a brogue such as this one, you may notice that there is still a little bit of white inside of the perforation of the shoe. There's an easy fix for that. You can either use a small dauber, or personally, I prefer to just use a horsehair brush, which we're going to be using anyway to shine the shoe. When you're putting it on there, gently just rub up and down on the shoe. Just try to get as much of that saddle soap off as possible so it doesn't mess with the conditioner or the polish, and so you can still get the best shine possible on the shoe. Now for the trickier parts such as the very front of this shoe, you just have to keep rubbing at the broguing and eventually you'll notice it'll start to come off. Now that we've removed all of the saddle soap from the shoe, it's now time to go to the next step, which is going to be your conditioner. Once you've wiped off the shoe of all of the saddle soap, you want to let it sit for a few minutes just to make sure that there's no water or any other saddle soap left on there, and so the shoe can dry out a little bit. Now the next step, as I said, is going to be some conditioner. With a conditioner, the biggest thing to remember is that conditioner is going to really moisturize the leather, nourish it. Very similar to skin, it's going to keep it soft, supple. You don't necessarily always need to use the saddle soap, but if a shoe's been sitting like this for a long time, I would definitely recommend it. The conditioner is something you can use regularly to keep the leather soft, and it will also prevent creasing in the front part of the shoes as well. Now the conditioner that I'm going to use today is some Saphir Renovateur, which I've mentioned in the past is just really good, high quality conditioner that you can use. Application is going to be just like with the saddle soap. You're going to wrap that shine cloth around your finger, dip it in there, and apply it to the shoe. Now the big thing to remember with a conditioner, especially a higher end one such as the Saphir, is that a little bit really goes a long way. You can see I'm starting out with minimal amounts just to make sure that I'm not adding too much. Now when you're putting it on the shoe, the easiest way to do it is to go in a circular motion on the shoe. Again, using too much conditioner is going to leave the shoe feeling really oily, and it's not really going to take the polish as well. You can see just that little bit is more than enough to really cover up this whole entire shoe, even the back part of the shoe as well. It's really going to leave it with a nice soft and supple feel. When you're applying it, I would recommend letting it sit for a few minutes again and then brush it off with the horsehair brush. Now you saw that little dollop that I used was more than enough for the first shoe, so the same thing, just a slight amount we're going to use here on the second shoe. Same process, you want to go in that nice circular motion and really just try and go around the whole shoe. You don't really want to focus on one spot. You want to just go over the entire shoe as much as possible because you're going to end up brushing it out anyway before we go to the next step, which is the polish. Once the shoe is entirely conditioned, you're going to notice there's also, just like with the saddle soap, some white markings in the broguing, but we can brush all that out after letting it sit for a few minutes. Now that you've let the shoe sit for a couple of minutes, you're going to go over it with that horsehair brush just to get any excess conditioner out of there, and after this we can move on to the polish. Now when you're brushing, same thing, just a light stroke back and forth. You really don't want to brush like this. You want to brush more or less coming on and off of the leather so you can really get some friction and add a nice shine to that leather. Now the conditioner, again, left the shoe feeling very soft and supple. And the big thing is that the color is already starting to come out a little bit. It's not quite as high of a finish as it's going to be with the polish on it, but it's just a lot nicer than when we originally started with the shoe. Now in combination with the conditioner and the saddle soap, the shoe is very soft and supple at this point, and the conditioner really is going to add a nice finish when we're done here. Now that we've brushed off all of the conditioner, added a little bit of finish on the shoes, we can now move on to some polish. So now that we've applied the saddle soap and the conditioner to the shoe, we're ready to move on to the cream polish. Now with cream polish, the main thing to remember is there's no right color that you can use for the shoes. Every different polish is going to accentuate the shoe and give it different types of tones. It really just depends on what kind of finish you want on the shoe. Now for these shoes, we're going to use some more Saphir products. We have two different types of cream polish. We have a light brown and a cognac. We're going to use one of each on the shoes to kind of show you how one might give it a little bit more of an orangish tone, whereas the other one might give it a little bit more of a gold tone. It'll be kind of an interesting experience, and we'll see how it works out in the end. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the cognac first. Application for this is going to be the same way that you did the saddle soap as well as the conditioner. You want to go back to your shine cloth, wrap it around your fingers just like we did with the other two items. Now when you're using the cream polish, especially a higher end product like Saphir, very similar to the conditioner and the saddle soap, less is always more. You don't want to cake the whole entire shoe. You want to get like a nice finish to it, which is why we're just going to use a small amount at a time and kind of go from there. Now you want to add just a small dollop like this to start, and when you're putting it into the shoe, you want to rub it in a circular motion such as this. Now you really want to just try and go slow so you're covering up the whole entire shoe, and then afterwards, Saphir on the bottle, it recommends that you let the shoe sit for about 3 minutes before you buff it out, and we've tried that before and found that that's actually very effective, so we're going to do the same thing. Now as you can see, I'm just going back and just getting small, very small dollops and just rubbing it into the whole entire shoe. You can go in a circular motion or you can go up and down just like this. Now with the cream polish, you really want to try and get the whole shoe. We're not going to stick to the wax for this particular episode because the wax is going to add a high glossy finish, and a lot of people don't really like that on the shoes. If you do, wax is the option, but if you want to just rejuvenate the shoe and really bring the color back out, you want to just use a nice cream polish. Now that we've applied it to the whole shoe, we're going to go ahead and use the other light brown on the other shoe, give it a couple of minutes, and then come back and buff it out and see what the final result looks like. So we went ahead and applied both colors of the cream polish to the shoes. You can see right here the variance between the two is not significant, but it kind of gives you an idea of every shoe is going to have its own finish. We've let them sit for the 3 minutes, and now we're going to go ahead and buff them. To buff them the same way you do with a horsehair brush, like we had said before, just go up and down on the shoe, really kind of get a good thorough brush in there, because this is when that high shine or that nice finish is really going to start to come out. Now, the broguing really didn't get a lot of polish in it, which is convenient because with the conditioner and saddle soap, it definitely did. When you're buffing, you can never really not buff a shoe for the right amount of time. You always want to try and buff it out to the ideal finish that you want to achieve on the shoes. Some people like to do it for a couple of minutes, some people do it for an hour. If you're using a mirror finish on the shoe, you're going to end up brushing it for hours. As you can see, I'm trying to stay consistent with the way that I'm brushing, doing the same thing to both shoes. You want to make sure you're getting the back part of the shoe as well, and not just the front. Now, we can always continue to keep brushing them, but you can already see after a quick brush, this is what the finished product is going to look like. Now, we did use the two different colors, and you can see the shoe overall still looks very similar. Both are still shades of this walnut color here, so the finish is not going to be that different on them. Now that we've used the conditioner, saddle soap, and polish, the final thing to do is add some edge dressing to the sole to get rid of any minor nicks and scratches on there. Edge dressing can be a bit messy, so you want to try and use as little as possible so you don't get any stains on yourself. To use it, what you're going to want to do is push gently down on the sole until you see the color start to come out. It's just lightly starting to curl out, and now what you do is you basically just crayon the entire sole. You want to go around the whole entire thing. Don't push down too hard. That's what causes the edge dressing to leak, and it's going to get all over you, and those stains are tricky to get out for sure. Now, as you're going around the whole shoe, you're going to notice that the sole is going to start to get darker and achieve that desired finish to have it look like it normally did in the beginning. As you can see, we're still going around the whole entire shoe, just following that same crayon process. Now, Now, a little pro tip if you want to really add a nice finish to the shoes and have them look very professional is right here at the tip. This is typically where guys end up wearing out the most. Now, when you're applying edge dressing to the tip of the shoe, you want to hit the front, but if you really want to have it look good, you always want to get a little bit at the bottom so it's going to look like nothing is on the shoe and that it's not marked up at all. Now you can go around and do a couple of coats, but really 1 to 2 turns around the shoe should be all you need. Once on, you want to let it sit for a couple of minutes and dry, but you can already see the difference between the two soles is significant. One is nice and touched up now, and the other one still shows some signs of wear, so we're going to go ahead and do the other shoe now. So you can see here the difference on both of the shoes. If you look at the soles, you're going to see one has edge dressing on it and one doesn't, and you can really see what a big difference it makes. In general, between the two cream polishes that we used, I personally prefer the cognac. After brushing it a little bit more, you'll notice that the cognac one really has some nicer orange tones to the shoe, whereas the light brown kind of stuck to a lighter tan color that's very uniform to the regular color of the shoe. But the cognac looks a little bit richer, and I really like how the finish turned out on this one. So you can see here we've got the finished product. We went ahead and started with that saddle soap to really kind of clean the shoe off. We went back and hit it with a conditioner to really kind of nourish the leather and make it soft again. And then we used the cream polish to really kind of bring the color back out and finish it off with the edge dressing. Again, like we said, between the two colors, the cognac seemed to be the better option. We'll probably go back and redo the other ones so they go together well. Now, the other thing that you can see is the overall finish of the shoe is a lot more appealing. It's something that can be worn again, it can be used again, and if it's kept in shoe trees, the creasing on the front isn't going to get any worse. Thanks for tuning back into the Dapper Side, guys. Feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment if you would like, and let us know what you think. Are there any different shoe care methods that you use? Any different products that you'd personally recommend? Let us know. We'd love to hear in the comment section below. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, guys, stay dapper.